everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Liz Loves Books. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about some of my all-time favorite contemporary romance books. A lot of these are rather recent reads within the last couple months or even year. There might be one or two that's a little bit earlier than that, but since I've just started recently tracking a lot of my reads and actually paying attention to it, these are some of my recent ones. So if you've watched my previous video, you'll know at least two of the series that's coming up, especially this one, and that is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. These are just the original newly published editions, but I figured I need to just show off all of the editions that I have of this series. And I can go into a little bit more deep dive into why I love this series so much. So we've got the first book here, which is Flawless. Second book, Heartless. The third book, Powerless. The fourth book, Reckless. And the fifth book, Hopeless. Now, I can talk about these books for forever, but I won't bore you for that long. But when I started reading this series, I read them all really close together. When I started reading Flawless, I believe I read it in 2 days, I think. I just found Elsie Silver's writing to just be so easy and so bingeable, but yet so full of depth and emotion, and it had a lot of character growth as well as plot, which I think I shouldn't say it's hard, but I feel like it can be hard to have an equal amount, 50-50, of character growth and plot in a story. Sometimes one or the other kind of edges about the other, but Elsie Silver does a really amazing job at combining both of them. And so Flawless, when I originally read this, I believe I gave it 5 stars. And I want to reread the series just to see what ratings I would give it now and kind of solidify everything in order from my favorite to least favorite, although they're all my favorites. So Flawless follows Rhett Eaton and Summer Hamilton. Now, Rhett is one of the Eaton brothers, and they all live on a and I'm going to just read a little bit of the synopsis because I'm not super good at explaining things sometimes, I feel. The tagline here says, "The rules were simple. Keep his hands off his agent's daughter and stay out of trouble. But now he's stuck with her. There's only one bed. And, well, rules are made to be broken." So it's kind of that, we both kind of are interested in each other, but we have these reasons as to why we can't be together, etc. Summer is kind of that city girl, and Rhett is more of that country boy. He is a professional bull rider, and Summer is obviously the daughter of Rhett's agent, and she ends up kind of running into him, and it kind of starts off with him getting into this all-out public brawl and kind of ruining his reputation. And so his agent says, "You gotta clean your act up," and sticks Rhett with his daughter Summer as like his supervisor for the rest of the season to make sure he doesn't get into any more brawls or fights or do anything, that would harm his reputation even more than it already has been harmed. So, of course, Rhett is not happy about having his own little babysitter, especially because I believe he's like 32, I think, in this book, and Summer's about 27, something like that. And another part in this book that I really love, that's on the back here, it says, "Summer says this means nothing. Rhett says this means everything." So it's a little bit more of a he falls first trope, which is one of my favorite micro tropes. I just love when the guy is just like, yes, all in. I just think it's my favorite thing ever. So this is the first book. Then the second book, Hopeless. Just kidding. The second book, Heartless by Elsie Silver. As of right now, this is my second favorite in the series. This one was also 5 stars. And this one just skyrocketed above Flawless for me. It follows Cade Eaton. He is the oldest Eaton brother, and Willa Grant, who is the best friend of Summer Hamilton in the first book. And the tagline for this book is, "Working as a nanny for the world's grumpiest single dad should be simple. Except she can't keep her eyes off him, and he can't keep his hands off her." So this is a single dad nanny romance, and Cade, also an age gap romance, because Cade is 13 years older than Willa. I believe he's 38 in the book. Yeah, pretty sure I'm correct. But basically, Cade is super grumpy, but he's like really, really sweet with his own son, Luke, and he is just working himself to the bone. And so Summer and Rhett and his father, Harvey, and all the other brothers are telling him, like, you need someone to help you with Luke so you can get more done around the ranch and you can take some time for yourself and, not be struggling so much. So they recommend Willa because she has come into town and she doesn't have a job currently, so she is just looking for something to be doing. And begrudgingly, Cade accepts her to be his nanny, and of course she ends up living on the property with him as well, so he sees her all the time. He sees her interact with Luke, and that's what really solidifies Willa for Cade, is her interaction with his son and how much she just adores and loves him as much as he does, even though Luke is not her own child. She just adores and loves him as much as he does, even though Luke is not her own child. I also love this little note here on the bottom. It says, "But it's in their quietest moments together that he softens. It's in the unexpected way he takes care of Willa that she realizes his hardened exterior is just a facade. And it's when she watches him go all sweet with his little boy that she starts to fall for him, whatever the consequences." Next is the third book in the series, Powerless. This follows Sloane Winthrop, who is our FMC, and Jasper Gervais, which is our MMC. Jasper is a professional NHL hockey player, and Sloane is a semi-retired ballerina, or professional ballerina. And the tag on this one says, "Two childhood friends, two broken hearts, one impromptu road trip to get away from everything. That's all this was supposed to be." So you've got childhood friends to lovers, which, to be fair, is not one of my favorite tropes, so I think that's why this one was lower for me than the rest. But I still gave it a 4.5. And then I do love a little road trip. I haven't read too many books with that trope in there, but I still actually really enjoy it. And she is, at the beginning of the book, currently engaged to somebody else. But she doesn't want to marry him. And she ends up getting cold feet and leaving the aisle, and Jasper whisks her away from the wedding. And so everything goes from there, obviously. Another little note on the back says, "The more time they spend alone, the more Jasper isn't looking at her like a friend anymore. He isn't touching her like one either. After all these years, he's still everything she's ever wanted, everything she thought she could never have." There's a lot of yearning and pining in this book, which I do love some yearning and pining. Fourth book is Reckless by L.C. Silver. This follows our MMC Theo Silva, who is also a professional bull rider, just like Rhett Eaton in the first book. He is the protege of Rhett Eaton. And then our female main character is Winter Hamilton, and she is I believe it's half-sibling or step-sibling of Summer Hamilton from the first book. So they kind of have that connection there between those two other characters. And the tagline for this one is, "He's scorching hot trouble wrapped up in a drool-worthy package, and he's looking at her like she might be his next meal." So Winter in this book is a couple years older than Theo. I believe Theo's only about 25, so it's a little bit of an age gap. She's older than him. It is also, let me see if this isn't a spoiler. Okay, it's not. It says it at the back of the book. This is a surprise pregnancy trope, which I do not like. But Elsie made me like surprise pregnancy. It's the only other book I've read that said surprise pregnancy, but I thought I would absolutely hate it, and I loved it. So Winter is finalizing her divorce from a man that she has fallen out of love with and has never treated her very well. And she meets Theo at, I believe it was like a family Christmas or New Year's gathering. And he immediately is like, who is this girl? I love her. She's the best. And they end up having a one-night stand at a motel. And she ends up being pregnant. And I'm not going to say more than that because it'll kind of ruin some of the plot of the story. But this also has a little bit of some time jumps in this book, which I didn't realize when I jumped into it. So that was kind of a fun little treat to have. And another little description on the back says, he worships her body, he makes her blush. She comes alive beneath his hands. Then she tells him to forget it ever happened. She wants simple, and with him it all feels complicated. And then finally, the 5th book, Hopeless, which is my favorite book in the series. I was not expecting it to be my favorite after I read Heartless, and then the next two I was like, okay, Heartless, number 1. Nothing can beat Heartless. Hopeless did. This follows our main male character, Bo Eaton, and our female main character, Bailey Jansen. And this one is quite an age gap. I believe Bo is 36 and Bailey is 22. So there is a pretty big age gap between them. And the tagline is, she's sure her last name has ruined any chance for her in this town. So he offers her his. So this is a fake engagement, fake marriage trope. And Bailey is a young bartender in the town that they all live in, and she has a really bad family reputation because her 2 older brothers and her father are just trash bags, honestly. Just trash bags. And they're drunkards, they're vandals, they're just not good people. And so she kind of has that stigma attached to her last name, and she's just trying to get on by and try to make enough money to be able to move out of the town and move to the city so she can be away from all of that trouble. And Bo is a retired military veteran who's kind of struggling after coming back from war and having a pretty serious injury on his feet, which involved like skin grafts and things like that. So there was a little bit of that kind of representation there. And then another description on the back of the book is, let's see. But it's what happens between them in private that blurs all those carefully drawn lines. It's what transpires behind closed doors that doesn't feel like pretending at all. This engagement was supposed to be for show. This agreement, it has an end date. So obviously with fake engagements, fake marriages, it's this transaction between 2 people because they each get a benefit from the other for this. You know, Bailey gets that good name recognition that comes with an Eaton. Like, they are like the golden boys of this town. And Bo just gets his entire family and the whole town off of his back, wondering why he hasn't been with anyone or isn't married or hasn't had, that traditional lifestyle. So they both come to that agreement, and obviously their feelings change and they end up falling in love, and it is just, it's my favorite. I love it so much. Okay, now that I rambled for like 20 minutes about the Chestnut Spring series, we could talk about another cowboy romance series, which I absolutely love and talked about in a previous video. That is the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Layla Sage. This one is a 4-book series, and these ones, oh, Rascal's come to say hi. Hello, buddy. Oh, hello. You come to say hi to the camera? Oh, thank you. Hello. You can go sit down? Sit down? Oh, I don't think so. Hi. Ah, don't step on the books. No. Hi. Thank you. Back to it, now that he's occupied with his treat. We've got the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Layla Sage. As I said, this is a 4-book series, quite a bit shorter than Chestnut Springs. They're a little bit more a popcorn type of book, but they still have, really important themes in it, I believe. So we've got the first book, which is Done and Dusted. And before we even continue, the art on these, I love it. I thought the artist for this series was incredible, and just the consistency with the printings of them as well was amazing. Then we have the second book, which is called Swift and Saddled. And we have the third book, which is Lost and Lassoed. And then the fourth book, which is Wild and Wrangled. I gave this one, I believe, a 5-star. Then I gave Swift and Saddled a 5-star as well. And then I was so excited for the release of Lost and Lassoed, which happened last fall. And I gave this one a low 4, and I was so upset that I didn't love it as much as the others, because this was the one I was looking forward to. Teddy and Gus were my number 1. But I was a little underwhelmed by this one. And then the fourth one, Wild and Wrangled, 5 stars, my favorite in the entire series. So apparently my favorite in series is just the last book, because that also happened with Chestnut Springs. So the first book, Done and Dusted, this follows Emmy Ryder, is right here, and Luke Brooks. And Emmy, she goes by Emmy. Her full name is Clementine, which I think is the cutest thing ever. She is the only daughter of 2 brothers in this series, and it's a small town brother's best friend trope for this one. So Emmy is the little sister of Gus and West in the second and third book. But Luke here on the cover here is best friends with Gus. So there's a little bit, about a 6-year age gap, so it's not really that big of an age gap. But the problem here is she's off limits, but he's never been good at following the rules. So this whole series takes place in a town called Meadowlark, Wyoming. It's just the cutest, most wholesome little town, and I love it so much. And so Emmy went away for college and kind of did her degree, made a name for herself, etc. And she is a horse rider. And so that is kind of her whole shtick. She rides horses around professionally, but she also teaches, younger kids and then also adults to ride horses. But she does have an accident that occurs that causes her to be really afraid to get back into the saddle riding. And I'm referencing this a lot because I read this one a while ago, so it's hard to remember everything that's happening. And obviously Luke Brooks is kind of that notorious bad boy bachelor type. He owns the bar that is in Meadowlark, so he is a business owner here. And he obviously has been around Emmy her entire life because he's been friends with Gus for many, many years. And so she's always been that annoying little sister. But he has always secretly kind of been in love with Emmy for a very, very long time. So, of course, it's he falls first. She realizes it later, which I really, really love. Then we have Swift and Saddled, which follows the middle brother, Weston, or West. And he is such a soft little sweet cinnamon roll. He is so cute, and I love him so much. And our female main character, her name is Ada Hart, and she is a city girl through and through. It's very golden retriever, black cat trope. And it says, she's the city girl who refuses to be saddled with a man. He's the cowboy who wants her anyway. So again, he falls first. She takes quite a while to fall for him. She's very, against being with anybody. She thinks she's not good enough for him. She thinks that she's going to ruin everything for him. It's kind of one of those vibes. Ada, though, is an interior designer, and she has been hired by West to come out to his ranch in Wyoming to work on a really important project that he has going. And Ada is kind of coming to this town as a new start because she just had her divorce from a very, very short marriage. Basically, this is just a whole entire story of West bringing down Ada's walls and teaching her that loving someone is okay and then not everyone is going to leave. And it's just a very, very sweet little romance. Then we have the third book, Lost and Lassoed. And I was so excited for this book, as I said, and it was just a little disappointing for me. I felt like the pacing was a little off and it was just a little rushed compared to the other two, especially because we already had the setup for Gus and Teddy in the first two books. So Teddy, or Theodora Anderson, is Emmy Ryder's best friend, and Gus is obviously the big brother of Emmy. So again, it's that it's sister's best friend trope in this one. And also a little bit of an age gap here between these two. So the tagline is, she thrives in chaos, he prefers routine. The only thing they have in common, how much they hate each other. So this is definitely like described as a hate to love. It's kind of like hate to love, rivals to love kind of vibes. Basically by hate to love, it just means that their just personalities haven't ever really meshed. Is kind of what I got when I was reading the books. And as I said, Teddy is very go with the flow. Gus is very strict, likes routine. Gus is a single dad. He does have his 6-year-old daughter. What is her name? Riley. Riley is the 6-year-old daughter that Gus has. So you also have the single dad trope in this. And Teddy is a fashion designer. And she's kind of taught herself just from her own experience. She hasn't gone to like school or anything for it, but she's really genuinely talented. But she's finding a lot of difficulty in her life because her best friend is now engaged, and she sees the other Belmont brother, happily in a relationship as well, and she sees Gus and his daughter just thriving, and she feels like she's just being left behind in the dust and that she is not progressing in her life like everybody else. So she's been feeling kind of down about that. And Gus, again, is just having, on the surface it looks like he's doing really well, but deep down inside he is struggling. He's struggling to take care of his daughter. He is struggling to run the family ranch. It's very similar to Heartless by L.C. Silver in that sense. Because Teddy ends up becoming the nanny for Riley, lives on the property. It's a very similar premise. So I don't know if maybe just reading Heartless before this tainted my idea of it. I'm not sure, but we will see. And Teddy's really his only option, so he begrudgingly chooses in, that close proximity, causes them to kind of learn more about each other, and eventually will fall in love. I just felt like that it was a little too quick, in my opinion. Then we have Wild and Wrangled, which I just read this month. Like, it was just released, so it's really fresh on my mind. It follows Cam and Dusty, who are briefly mentioned in the other books. Cam has a little bit more appearances than Dusty. And this one's kind of an interesting one because Cam is the mother of Riley, the little girl in the previous book. So she and Gus did have a daughter. It was just a one-night stand kind of deal. They were never really in love. They just kind of went to each other in a moment of weakness and need, and then Riley happened. And so they're really great co-parents. And Dusty is just a childhood friend of the Belmont family. And this is a second chance romance because both Cam and Dusty were together back in high school. And there's been about 13 years or so difference between high school and the present day when this book takes place. And Cam, or Camille, she comes from a really rich, well-to-do family. Her parents are kind of awful. All they care about is money and appearance and, how they can move up in society. And so Cam is kind of always raised that way. And Dusty, again, is just your very, blue-collar, small-town guy. And her parents never thought that he was ever good enough for her. And so what's really cool about this one is they do flashbacks from their time in high school and a little bit after that to present day in this one. But in the beginning, though, Cam is actually going to be getting married. Like, her wedding is, here. And she gets a note from her groom saying he couldn't marry her and he couldn't do it. So her marriage is falling apart. Her old flame Dusty finds out. He whisks her away. They end up kind of falling back in with each other. Cam, again, is trying to kind of stop this because she doesn't want to have another influence in Riley's life unless it's going to be a good one and she knows the person's going to stay. And Dusty has been, over the years, been kind of flighty, moving to and from places, not being as steady of a presence as she would want for her daughter. So, but another little tagline here is, she's the one that got away, he's the one that never let go. So Dusty has just been hopelessly in love with Kim for forever and has never like let the idea of her go, and he's always hoped that she would be there eventually, which it's a romance, so you know that there's going to be that happily ever after. Yeah, that's that book. So if I had to pick an order for the 4 books, my top, Wild and Wrangled. My second favorite, Done and Dusted. Third, Swift and Saddled. And fourth, Lost and Lassoed. And then I don't believe I gave my ranking for Chestnut Springs. So my number 1 for Chestnut Springs is Hopeless. My number 2 is Heartless. My number 3, I haven't thought about this for a while, so I think my number 3 is Reckless. Then my 4th is Flawless. And then lastly, Powerless. Oh my god, I'm a rambler. This clip as of right now is almost 40 minutes long, and I still had another clip for this that was like 20 minutes. Welcome to my channel where we ramble. Anyway, I thank you guys for sticking with me for this long video. Of course, it'll be shortened somewhat, but I'm just so excited to be here and talk with you guys all about books. And I am so excited to, again, continue this journey. Thanks. Bye, guys.